So you go out, Kevin, you go out on all of those calls and whenever there's like down wires and things, is that your time
Oh, yeah.
out?
Yeah, I responded one today. Just when I was leaving work, they get a call. There was a car pole accident in Bradford, I believe. So I didn't get a chance to participate on that one.
Oh,
It happens all the time, though. People have a tendency to want to hit poles. I don't know why.
yeah. There's just some small things too. How do they ever do that?
I know. It's usually 2 o'clock in the morning, too.
Yep. When I was on rescue, we always got calls. It was like after 10 at night. It seemed like it was always like into the morning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you count on it.
So what does it look like, Darlene? Are we okay?
Yep, you're good to go.
Good to go.
1, 2,
All right.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's 7 of you. So, did you get my email where we added on 2 more people?
No. Would you
Okay.
add
Jacob Drew on 662 in support.
Jacob Drew?
Yep.
Okay.
And Danielle Foster. And she's also
Okay.
in support.
And same bill?
Yep. Yeah, they signed on right after I hit send.
No problem. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Committee on Transportation. Pleased to have you with us. We'll have 3 public hearings today and followed by a work session on LD 161, which is the general fund portion of the biennial budget. The meeting today is being live streamed on the committee's YouTube channel, and all participants via Zoom can be seen and heard when the mic is on. Testifiers obviously cannot be seen until they're recognized by the chair. The meeting is also recorded and available on the committee's YouTube after the meeting is concluded. Remind everyone to check and make sure your name is displayed on the Zoom the same as you registered, so we will know that we got the right person. Public hearings starts with the sponsor, of course, followed by the co-sponsors, if any, and then followed by the public, who will speak in the order of those who are proponents, followed by those who are opponents, and followed by those who would wish to testify neither for nor against. When you're called upon, you'll be promoted from attendee to participant, and when you're finished, sadly to say, you go back to the attendee status. When called upon, make sure your mic is unmuted. State your name, residence, and affiliations if you are associated with any. All individuals who wish to testify must register in advance of the public hearing in order to be called upon to testify. I would like to have the committee members introduce themselves, and then a couple of announcements, and we will begin. So we'll start with our committee introductions with Senator Brad Farren. Good afternoon, Senator Farren.
Good afternoon, sir. Senator Brad Farren, representing Senate District 3, which is the majority of Somerset County in the town of Rome in Kennebec County.
Thank you, sir. Senator Chipman might not be here.
Not here yet.
Yep. Representative Wayne Perry.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Wayne Perry. I represent House District 10, which covers Arundel, Dayton, and most of Lyman.
Thank you, sir. Representative Lynn Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Representative Lynn Williams. I represent District 135, which includes Bar Harbor, Lemoyne, and Mount Desert.
Thank you. Representative Dustin White.
Not here yet.
Here. Representative Mike Perkins.
Good afternoon, sir. Representative Mike Perkins from Oakland and Sydney. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Mark Bryant.
Thank you, Senator. Welcome all. I'm Mark Bryant. I represent House District 24, part of the town of Wyndham.
Thank you. Representative Bruce White.
Yes, hi, I'm Representative Bruce White from Waterville, District 109. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Representative Tom Martin.
Not here yet.
Not here. Representative Kevin O'Connell.
Thank you, sir. Kevin O'Connell, District 128, 95.76% of Brewer.
Representative Rich Sebra.
Not here yet.
Not with us. Okay. Our committee analysts are Sam Prower. Today will be Karen Neto, Suzanne Voynick when we get to our work session. And our clerk, of course, is Darlene Semino. All the good things those people do, we appreciate. We do have a couple things we have to just mention briefly. That is, want to remind everybody, and not everybody's here, so we'll hopefully catch those who are not, but we cannot report out bills that are divided reports until everybody signs off. That is, you'll receive an email and you need to say, yes, the vote, which you're looking, they'll send you a copy of the votes and you'll look at that just to reaffirm that's as you voted. That's a new rule. While as long as we're working with Zoom, we have to do it that way. And so when you don't sign off, the bill sits there. We have 5 bills. Is that correct, Darlene? I think we have
Yes.
5 bills that have been voted on quite a while ago, but we can't get everybody to sign off. So it's really important that you do that you sign off so that we can get those bills reported out. Especially if you're there's a divided report because of just one person, which is the case with LD 312. Just had one person that had voted ought not to pass, and that bill could not go out because it was that person didn't sign off. So pay attention to this, please. This is really a serious issue that we can't let can't let the bills just sit here because people haven't responded to the request. So please give that your full attention. We want to make sure that we get our bills. I mean, we're doing such a good job reporting out bills. And it's a shame to have them set back just because somebody hasn't got around to doing that. So consider that to be a high priority. If you would, that would help Darlene. It would help everybody who's waiting to get the bills pushed out. Thank you. Representative Perry, did you have a comment on that question?
Yeah, just real quick. I know I almost missed a couple of them because different people sent them out. Usually we get them from Casey, and there was a couple other people that sent them out one day. So I missed them and I got the second notice. I don't know if that's a common practice or, I mean, if we know they're coming from Casey, we know they're coming and that's what they are is when she sends it. But I know one day I had 3 different people send out the notice. So if you're not used to, you know, something coming, I didn't even realize that's what they were at first.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I
that
think
might
they
be
do.
something
Right.
for them to look at too.
Darlene, do they ever come from you or are they usually from
They
Casey?
come from Casey or Ethan. Izzy's moving over to EUT, so you won't get them from her anymore. I'll mention it to Casey that they really need to go out from her
Name, yeah.
or like a group thing or something so that you can respond to all 3 of them. I did
Okay.
send reminders out saying, please contact Casey, but I'll find out.
Okay. and
Well,
if-
just real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
Casey resent me one, said she didn't have it, and
she
I
did.
replied to one of the other people. So I sent the whole
Oh.
thing back to her, the whole chain of sending them back and forth. So they might not know what's
Okay.
being sent back. If
I'll
it-
double, I know you're all set because I checked this
Right.
morning to see.
But that was one that she emailed me twice saying she didn't have it. And I went back into my sent folder and sent her what I'd already sent in.
So
Perfect.
if you get one from other people from the information office, you might want to like just CC Casey on them, just because.
Okay.
I would like it if it was just me sending them out to you guys, but I'm not getting my way, so.
So Representative Tom Martin, if you would check in with, should they check in with you, Darlene, if they need to be signed off?
Yeah, I've actually got an email that I can ship out to the people that need to vote.
Okay,
And they
please
just
do that.
respond to me and I'll send them to
Okay.
Casey.
Please do that. Then everybody gets caught up. From this point on, we'll see if we can you can talk to Casey and get that little thing straightened out. That would be helpful.
Okay.
Good. Anything else before we begin? Representative Martin, House Chair, anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Danny Martin, representing House 150, located in northern Rooster County.
You know, I forgot you and me.
That's all right. You're right.
Senator Bill, thank you, Danny. Representative Bill Diamond, Senate District 26, live in Wyndham. Thank you for that. Okay, I think it's time to begin with the public hearing, and we're going to start with LD 644. It's an act regarding motor vehicle registration violations presented by Representative Cloutier of Lewiston. Good afternoon and welcome, Representative Cloutier.
He's not there yet. Hold on.
Oh.
He's coming. She's coming. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Senator
Oh.
Diamond.
Representative Cloutier, welcome. We took a little minute to get here, so thank you.
No worries. Thanks so much. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Transportation Committee. As you know, my name is Kristen Cloutier, and I proudly represent House District 60, part of Lewiston. I am here to present testimony in support of LD 644, an act regarding motor vehicle registration violations. In February of last year, I was contacted by a coworker who had been pulled over for having an expired vehicle registration. In fact, it was more than 150 days overdue. With everything going on in her life, including recently having been diagnosed with leukemia in the midst of a pending pandemic, it legitimately slipped her notice. She was shocked, as I was, that despite this being her first offense and having not received any kind of notification on the expiration from the state, she was scheduled for a court date in May and faced a Class E misdemeanor conviction, the same as if she had been caught shoplifting. The effect of these extreme consequences on this particular individual were minimal. She is 55 years old, has been a model citizen for her entire life, and is well established in her community and career. However, such a conviction could mean something very different and much more devastating for someone less established, preventing them from being able to obtain housing and employment. In addition, the 150-day timeframe seems arbitrary, given that no more harm is done regardless of whether your car registration is lapsed for 1 day or 151 days. In most cases, it is merely a matter of when you are pulled over and made aware of the lapse, or when you notice the lapse yourself while loading groceries into your trunk. It's a situation that many of us can relate to. This bill seeks to relax these legal consequences by removing the Class C crime designation from operating with an expired motor vehicle registration, failing to change an out-of-state registration, and operating with expired 14-day registration plates. Instead, it requires a warning to be issued for all traffic stops for expired registrations, requires registrations to be obtained or changed within 10 business days of a warning having been issued, and established a $500 fine for second and subsequent offenses. It also requires the Secretary of State to establish a notification system to inform individuals of registrations that are going to expire within the next 30 days. Since the drafting of this bill, I've had several conversations with the Secretary of State's office, and my understanding is that they are presenting testimony neither for nor against. I also understand that the expense of a notification system could be significant due to the potential postal costs and will thus generate a sizable fiscal note. However, it also seems that there is an opportunity to perform this outreach via email and text messaging, which would lower those expenses to a more reasonable figure. And in addition, it has become clear that the departmental IT systems within the Secretary of State's office are in desperate need of upgrades, and a more robust electronic notification system could be included in that process. So I am completely open to working with the Secretary of State's office on how that notification system might be best implemented. I chose to move forward with this piece of legislation despite these concerns, because I think this departmental need is an important one to flag for the committee. However, I do not want the costs associated with the notification system to hold the bill back. And I'm also open to modifying the bill to either make the notification system entirely electronic or to removing it altogether for now until a more cost-effective means of notification can be implemented. My primary goal in introducing this bill is to decriminalize the relatively mundane and unintentional act of a lapsing car registration. So thank you all for your consideration today, and thank you for allowing me to present this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. You will also have testimony from the coworker who contacted me originally about this legislation. Her name is Ellen Alcorn.
Thank you very much, Representative Cloutier. We appreciate that testimony. Are there questions from the committee? I would just ask one, are you still in the process of working with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles Secretary of State's office? Because there are some other items that you referenced. Are they okay as far as your conversation with them on everything else?
So my understanding, yes. So their one concern was the notification system, based upon I received an email immediately before coming here from Joanne Batista saying that they were going to present testimony neither for nor against, but we're open to further conversation about the notification system.
Thank you very much. Representative Perry has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative. Real quick, why did it turn into a Class E misdemeanor? I guess I don't know what happened between the time she was stopped and the supposed court date. Was it a mandatory court date, or did she not just show up or pay the fine or whatever it was?
So there's no fine currently associated with it. It's after you get to a certain number of days, so beyond I think it's 120 or 130 days, it automatically goes to a Class E misdemeanor. And she wasn't pulled over until it had reached that point. So it automatically went to a Class E misdemeanor because of the number of days that it had lapsed.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Representative Bruce White.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'm glad Representative Cloutier was very open to the notification system, because that kind of stood out to me as well, that it could be very complicated to get something like that going. And if somebody didn't get 30 days notice, then they're upset as well. So I think we have to just be cautious on that. But at the same time, I think we all know that our system needs to be upgraded. So it's a good thing to be discussing. So thank you for bringing that and being open to, removing that if necessary.
Thank you, Representative White. Other questions of Representative Cloutier? Seeing none, thank you very much. And we welcome you back for a work session because I'm sure there'll be other questions that maybe you can help us with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Under the proponent side, I have Emma Bond. Is Emma with us?
Yep. Yes, hello.
Oh, hello. How are you? Welcome.
Good, thanks. Thank you. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Committee on Transportation, good afternoon. My name is Emma Bond, and I am the legal director of the ACLU of Maine, here to testify in support of LD 644. We support LD 644 and the removal of the Class E criminal designation for failing to register a car. And I'd like to address three primary points that are, we think, important in support of this bill. First, the state's criminal enforcement authority is an extreme power. The state has the ability to punish, to stigmatize behavior, and ultimately to deprive people of their liberty. And all of those, and not to mention the collateral consequences that accompany criminal convictions, such as Representative Cloutier explained, when people are applying for jobs or for apartments, they often have to disclose prior criminal convictions. And all of these combine to having to the reality that criminal convictions can have a huge negative consequence on people's lives. And forcing people to have that consequence simply because they forgot to register a car is a really excessive consequence for what is, what you could call it ministerial, you could call it mundane, as Representative Cloutier did, but it's essentially a civil issue, this failure to register a car. And I think the example that she provided of her friend illustrates that very clearly. Second, this is really imposing the criminal framework, even at the Class C misdemeanor stage, is costly to the state. It requires the participation of district attorneys, of the court's procedural posture that has the protections associated in criminal enforcement. You know, all of these are state resources that could be used much better in a wide variety of other areas that really shouldn't be used in the matter of failing to register a vehicle, which oftentimes, as I'm sure most people on the call have on the Zoom have experienced, is if someone forgets to register their car, it's not because they're trying to harm the public or anything like that. It's really a matter of forgetting. And third, you know, I'm here instead of some of my colleagues who often appear before the legislature because I actually have a personal experience with this law. And I think it speaks to the stigmatizing nature of the criminal law that I'm a little embarrassed to even say what it is. But briefly, it was a memorable time because it was the last Christmas before the lockdown and before COVID. So it was the Christmas of 2019. I was driving my mother home in my husband's car. My husband, being from Pennsylvania, didn't understand or realize about the registration requirement. So the short of the story is that I ended up getting charged with a Class C crime because I was driving his vehicle. Now, similar to Representative Cloutier's friend, it all turned out okay for me. My husband immediately registered the car the next day, and the charges were ultimately dismissed. But it did represent a cost to the prosecutor, who I had to be in touch with, the court dates that kept getting rescheduled because of COVID, and you know the fear that I had as a lawyer and of what a criminal conviction could mean for my life. And I would submit that that's not an appropriate use of the criminal law, and that all of those resources could have been better used, and that I am really the least of the potential victims of this law. I'm sure there are many other people who have been harmed much more. So with that, I would ask the committee to support and vote ought to pass on LD 644, and I will be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bond, for your testimony. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next person testifying is Rebecca Graham, who's speaking in opposition, since we're done with supporters, from the Maine Municipal Association. Good afternoon, Ms. Graham.
Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I'm providing testimony in opposition to LD 644 at the direction of our 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. There is currently no way for police agencies to communicate that an individual has been warned or stopped for a traffic infraction. As drafted, the language implies that any officer would somehow know that an individual had been stopped by another agency previously and warned before an official ticket could be printed. That's functionally impossible under the current system. And it's also far from impartial to the operator, and the decision to write that ticket should be made prior to that officer stepping up to that member. Currently, however, law enforcement has a great deal of discretion when writing motor vehicle violations. They exercise this discretion based on the circumstances of the stop and sometimes local knowledge. In many instances, a lack of registering a motor vehicle is simply an oversight on the part of the operator, as you've already heard, and that system has worked for both of those individuals that have testified today. In many instances, in other cases rather, it's economic situations, and often a warning is issued. A member of our LPC shared an incident that occurred when he was riding with a member of his police department, where an individual was stopped for actually a headlight out, and therefore found that the registration had also expired, the insurance card had also expired, and the inspection had also expired, and the individual had children in the vehicle as well. The decision of that officer was that they escorted that individual home to advise him of the penalties that would have incurred had that officer chosen to write him for all of those violations, and why each was really important. And that's a function of procedural justice that's really important. We understand that there's oversight. We also understand that there is a hardship incurred there. However, this is a form of tax evasion. The notification of an expired registration is available to citizens every day via the Secretary of State stickers on your vehicle. And currently, after 150 days, the amount of excise tax paid to register your vehicle is halved. So operating under the assumption that a vehicle has not been used while unregistered. So as drafted, there's really little incentive for an individual to register a vehicle on time. As with other tax loopholes, the legislation actually creates a disincentive that will more often than not be used by those with capacity to pay their excise tax and rather expensive vehicles than those who are financially struggling. At a minimum, if the committee chooses to move forward with this legislation, maybe a statutory reduction, removal of the statutory reduction of excise tax for late year registrations should be removed. Registration suspensions also happen for a variety of reasons, such as repeated OUI offenses, failing to have your vehicle insured if you've been in a number of accidents, as well as failing to pay child support. So LD 644 will also remove an important tool that allows the state to pursue neglectful parents in a timely way, dangerous operators with a history of posing a physical financial threat to the community, so be disincentivized. So if the intent, as we've heard, is to reduce the ability for law enforcement to use an expired registration tool for a traffic stop, then this committee might want to consider all the ways that the tool is used and make sure that those other uses are somehow protected. If the intent is to reduce the financial burden on Mainers, then maybe a better approach would be to allow a 30-day grace period upon the receipt of a summons for that individual to register the vehicle prior to the violation actually becoming actionable would be a good way forward. To be clear, municipal officials don't feel strongly either way about the removal of the criminal penalty piece, but they do think it's an important tool to remind that individual that they do have a responsibility to their neighbors and other operators on the road. And also to that point, it happens frequently through officer discretion already. And that often provides a better alternative than removing that tool entirely. If the intent is to reduce the violation fees, then municipal officials would remind the committee that there is the ability, the notification piece rather, many communities kind of already send out a notification to their residents via email or via mail. And this is something that communities have been doing when they have capacity to do it, and often have an internal system to support that. It's not something that all communities have the ability to do, but it is already happening. So for all of these reasons, municipal officials ask that you vote not to pass on 644, or at least amend those specific pieces. And I'd be happy to be here for the work session on this matter and answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the testimony, and also thank you for offering to be at the work session, because I think that could be helpful. Questions, Representative Danny Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Graham, you mentioned tax evasion. Were you implying or suggesting the municipal excise tax issue?
Yes, I know that in some communities, there is a propensity for individuals who have the ability to register in another state at a lower level where they don't use excise tax to fund roads and road development, that they tend to not register their vehicle. And as we heard, the Pennsylvania piece, I'm not sure what the registration fees are within Pennsylvania, but there certainly is a disincentivization if you come from a place like Massachusetts where the registration fees are very low and the registration fees in Maine are very high because of the way that we fund our road system. Last year, $329 million was spent on local roads by communities, and 279 were collected through excise tax. Yeah. So communities are using more than that for the road system.
Mr. Chair, but if one forgets to register his or her vehicle in Maine, and the day that one remembers to register it, it does go back retroactive. So there's no actual loss to the county clerks of the municipalities, correct?
Beyond a certain point, when you register your vehicle, your registration fees are halved. So if you have a really expensive vehicle, you actually would be incentivized by this to take your chances and not register that vehicle beyond that point. you're going to have to get pulled over 3 times in some instances if you have an $85,000 vehicle for it to be kind of punitive under the way that it's currently written. You would make out better if you didn't, basically.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee? Thank you very much, Ms. Graham. We appreciate your testimony. We look forward to having you at our work session.
Thank you, sir.
Next, there's no more opposition scheduled, so the next speaker will be Secretary of State Bellows, who is our Secretary of State, and as I just mentioned, and we would welcome her to give her testimony.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Shenna Bellows. I'm the Secretary of State, speaking neither for nor against LD 644. We applaud the sponsor for recognizing the importance of eliminating practices that unnecessarily criminalize certain violations of the current law, and agree that a potential solution would be sending notifications out to drivers before their registration expires. As all of you know, vehicle registration advances highway safety by helping to verify vehicle identification, ownership, and financial responsibility. The Bureau of Motor Vehicles, the BMV, receives nearly 1.4 million vehicle registrations annually. We've implemented rapid renewal online registration, which allows members of the public from participating municipalities to register their vehicles, pay the state motor vehicle registration fee and the excise tax online. And in 2020, 330,358 registrations took place through rapid renewal, a dramatic increase from 151,000 online registrations in 2019. Now, users of the rapid renewal system can sign up for an email reminder that their registration is due, and that reminder comes about a month before the annual deadline. Currently, our systems are equipped only to send out reminders to those who sign up voluntarily through that system to receive them. Maine is actually one of 6 states that we know of that does not send out automatic notices to the owners of the nearly 1.4 million registered vehicles. This has never been the practice in our state. One of those 6 states is Utah, which suspended its notification system due to budget problems in 2020. But actually last week, the legislature in Utah passed legislation to reinstate notifications. We do estimate that as currently drafted, to issue approximately 1.4 million annual notices to Mainers would cost about $600,000. Of course, we'll prepare a fiscal note for the work session. That is consistent with the costs reported in other states. Electronic or even telephonic notifications could be possible if the Bureau had sufficient resources to upgrade current technology. The Department of Motor Vehicles in New York, for example, does send out automatic electronic reminders. Again, similar in some ways to us once an online registration renewal transaction is completed. If we had the proper upgrades, we could mirror New York State's policy. There is a policy question involved about whether the legislature would want to mandate that Mainers share their email address or telephone number with the Bureau as a requirement of vehicle registration. And we would need to invest in appropriate technology upgrades to capture, securely manage, and store this type of data. We support decriminalization of failure to register. It's already been discussed, but Maine does not have a centralized system for tracking warnings. So there could be unintended consequences to the warning provision of the bill without some sort of modification. So the legislature may want to evaluate alternatives to strengthen compliance because of the potential reduction in registration fees to the state. We are committed to working with the sponsor and the legislature to find ways to support Mainers in fulfilling their legal responsibility to register their vehicles without criminalization. And we're available to answer any questions. Thank you, and I'm happy.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Madam Secretary, for your testimony. We appreciate that for sure. Representative Mark Bryant has a question.
Thank you. I think Wayne might have been first, but.
Go right ahead.
Madam Secretary, you said there's no way right now really to track the warnings, but do you have, and can you give maybe for the work session, how many have violated the 150 days or whatever it is, so that we have some idea what we're talking about as far as the amount. That would be helpful for the work session. And if you have any information on warnings, that would be also, but you did say you don't really have a clear vision of that, but you should have a clear vision of the other.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
will. I will ask our IT department to pull that data. We deeply appreciate the sponsor acknowledging some of our technology needs. Our registration system is somewhat outdated, so it's possible that it may not track it, but we will do our very best to pull that data.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Secretary. I think probably Lieutenant Scott's looking up the warning thing right now. I saw him turn to his computer right after that question was asked. You mentioned about on the rapid renewal that people can sign up to get reminders. Is it possible for other people just to sign up under that automatic system? I think you're correct. I don't think mandating people give out their email addresses. I get enough junk emails as it is. I don't want any more. But if people can do it voluntarily now, maybe that's something that the people that want to get notified, and the ones that don't.
Thank you. And I do think that there is a challenge with public awareness of this option. It's definitely something that we could improve. It's an option that you access when you click on the rapid renewal system. So.
Would it be something that you could put kind of right on the Secretary of State website or something, a little blurb that says if you want to be notified when your registration runs out, you can do it by rapid renewal, or go to your town hall and do whatever you need to do, something like that maybe.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Other questions of the Secretary? Representative Bryan, are you asking another question, or did you just leave your hand up?
Well, let's take a look. Thank you.
Never mind, it just went away. Before you leave us, Madam Secretary, so if you're in favor, I think what you said in terms of removing the designation of the Class E crime, do you have any concerns, or would you replace that with any kind of incentive to register your vehicle, so that we would not just have people out there thinking, well, there's no reason for me to do it. Why would I want to do it? Any suggestions? If you don't have them today, maybe you could suggest them to us at work session.
And that's a good conversation that we might also have with the Maine State Police about, certainly if there were a system for monitoring warnings, then that would change things, right? Or if there were, so yes, that's certainly something we can discuss and bring some recommendations back to the work session, and we're happy to do that.
Good, because we're going to look to you for some help on this.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that testimony. Next, speaking neither for nor against, is Lieutenant Bruce Scott, the Maine State Police.
Good afternoon, folks. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Lieutenant Bruce Scott. I'm the commanding officer of the State Police Traffic Safety Unit. I'm here today to testify on for the Department of Public Safety and the Maine State Police, neither for nor against LD 644. This bill, if passed, would decriminalize operating an expired beyond 150 days registration. It's a Class E crime, and it would be reduced to a traffic infraction. It would require a warning to be given to an operator in violation of this law, and then allow the operator or the owner 10 days in which to get the vehicle registered. The current law does require an operator to be given a warning within the first 30 days of expiration, and then the operator has 2 business days to comply. But this would remove that section of law and mean that the expiration could have been months, even years, or never registered at all, and still require a warning. A person driving with no plates on their vehicle would still have to be warned before any type of enforcement action were to take place. This would be problematic due to the lack of central repository. Law enforcement would have no way of knowing if another agency has already warned an individual for an expired registration. I do understand LD 845 may have died on the vine, but if that were to pass and you put these 2 bills together, LD 845 seeks to make the registration violation a secondary offense. With those together, we see this as almost being an unenforceable statute at that point. Also, current law only allows the police officer to tow a vehicle under certain conditions. If this bill were to pass and it was no longer a crime to operate an unregistered vehicle, law enforcement would not have the ability to remove the vehicle from the roadway when necessary and appropriate. The fine is currently very low for a first offense at $50 for operating with an expired registration, which we feel is appropriate for the current traffic violation. But it may not serve as an adequate deterrent for what is now a crime that this law seeks to decriminalize. In other words, we believe there would be a lack of compliance if this bill were to pass because the risk is very low and the reward is very high. It can cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to register a vehicle. And if it were only a traffic infraction not to register your vehicle, and then you must be warned before any action can be taken or levied against you, there's really no risk in taking your chances and not registering your vehicle at all. In closing, I would want to point out that in my experience, unregistered vehicles, uninsured vehicles, and uninspected vehicles do seem to travel hand in hand. For these reasons, we're neither for nor against LD 644. On behalf of the Department of Public Safety and the Maine State Police, I do thank you for your time, and I would be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Lieutenant, again, for your testimony. We appreciate that. Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Lieutenant Scott. Were you looking up the warnings?
I was actually looking up the summons data. The warning data takes a little bit longer for me, but I can at least retrieve it for state police. What we can't do is retrieve it for the other 149 police agencies in the state.
Yeah. Real quick, would it be a better system if instead of just having the two options where if it's between 30 days and 150, it's a $50 fine, and then the Class E crime, should there be a step in between where you have to register it right away? It's a bigger fine. If it's not done within such a time frame, then you'd be a Class E felony.
Well, just Class E is a misdemeanor, and I don't want to confuse that with.
Right. I'm sorry. Use the wrong word. Yeah.
So very different, especially in my world. We would be more than happy to hire a state trooper with a thorough background if the only thing they had on their record was a Class E misdemeanor for an unregistered vehicle. It wouldn't stand in our way, just so you know. But to answer your question, I do think that there is room for improvement in the bill. We don't take a strong position on decriminalization, but what we want to do is make sure that there's an adequate deterrent so that those that intentionally and willfully refuse to register their vehicles can be held accountable. And we recognize that the goal of this bill is certainly to take into consideration those like the sponsor and the situation that they spoke of that just made a mistake. They overlooked it and they forgot it. This bill wouldn't create any difference whatsoever between those that intentionally never registered their cars and those that forgot it. So maybe you're onto something where you put something in the middle. And I think Rebecca Graham had testified that perhaps if it's still a ticketable offense, even a summonsable offense in a Class E crime, if they had 30 days at that point from which to register their vehicles, and then it would be automatically dismissed, there's some hope there. I can tell you current practice is if somebody is summoned to court for this violation, as long as they register their vehicle prior to their hearing date, it is automatically dismissed in most of the courts that I work with, and in writing in some of them where we shall dismiss these cases. So there has been consideration given to this in the past, and I don't have a perfect answer, but I'd be glad to try to help work through it at the work session to come up with something that we felt would serve as an adequate deterrent and still accomplish the goal.
Yeah, because I think there needs to be one step in between if somebody gets stopped over that 150 day before it goes into being a misdemeanor. Some type of a step. Do you also think that it is a incentive if the registration drops in half? Should that probably be eliminated in that part, or your opinion?
I do think it's an incentive. If somebody can make it 6 months, you still have to warn them so they're taking no risk. If they can make it 6 months and have that excise tax reduced, I think that would be an incentive in and of itself. But another portion of this is if you don't register your vehicle at all, you can take your chances. You can drive it 6 months, a year, 2 years. pick a number,
Right.
that's never going to be retro because it was never registered before. There's nothing to go back on and say at this date and time you should have and didn't, therefore we're charging you. So I see that there's all kinds of incentives with this bill for those that truly intend to deceive and defraud rather than those that make a mistake and forget.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome for the work session to try to, if you can come up with, some in-between step on that, between the $50 fine and the Class C misdemeanor, if we can have something in between on that, and we'll look at the changing that. I know for myself, I did this once about 20 years ago. I went to town hall and didn't have something. They wrote on my mileage and everything, and I didn't have, and I left. And in my head, I went to town hall already and never registered. It went like 8 months or whatever. And they did and it was just, I thought I had registered it. And one day I looked down and it had the previous year on it. So I know that honest mistakes can happen on this. So I think we need to work on, something in between there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Perry. Before we go to Representative Perkins, Lieutenant, if you could do if you wouldn't mind working with the sponsor on this, and we'll contact her for sure. But prior to the work session, that would probably save the committee a lot of time. If you wouldn't mind.
I'm glad to.
We'll suggest it. Yes, thank you. Representative Perkins.
Lieutenant Scott, I want to say thank you because you answered a couple of questions that I was going to propose, but I want everyone to think on this bill really hard because it will cost our small towns a lot of money if we start cutting excise tax out. And if people continue on going and we don't hold people accountable, there's no accountability for anything at all. And we're going to have a lawless community. Again, I know I'm stretching that, but I'm just telling you, I personally have 10 vehicles that I have to register every year. And they all come at different dates and times, and they're really wicked hard. I'm telling you, I have to go out and look at my license plate and say, that one's expired, I got to go register. So we have to hold people accountable in our little towns like Oakland, Sinclair. We need our excise tax. We need people to register their vehicles. And people do things, and they do run hand in hand, that if they don't register their car, probably they don't have insurance on it either. We need to help our local police and our state police out in being able to take and keep track of these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Perkins. Representative Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there any penalty if you do not register on time? I'm like compulsively got to do this on time, even if it's the last day. So I don't know, is there a financial penalty in terms of what you need to pay if you're late with your registration?
I apologize. Is the question for me, Representative Williams?
Yes, it's
Oh,
for you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir.
So there's a fine, and the current fine is $50 for failure to register as long as it's under that 150 days. There's no second offense or third offense that's built into the statute right now, although perhaps maybe that's what Representative Perry was talking about, is having some type of graduated system.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. And Lieutenant, for some reason, I don't have your testimony. Would you mind making sure that everybody else may have it? I don't just seem to have it.
Yes, sir.
Sure, thank you. Appreciate that. Any other questions of Lieutenant? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And last to speak, and it'll be neither for nor against, is Kenneth Capron. Capron, welcome.
He's not here.
He's not here. Very
No.
good.
No.
That ends our registered testifiers. I think there's some things that can be done here, but we definitely need to have some work done before we have our work session to save the committee a lot of time. We'll close the public hearing on LD 644.
Is 662 next?
No.
No, 645?
45.
Okay.
Open a public hearing on LD 645, resolve to create electronic titling work group presented by Representative White of Waterville. Good afternoon, Representative White. Representative White.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for that.
Well, Yeah, right. Well, I heard this group was pretty intimidating, but hopefully it'll be easy on me. So now that I have my mic on, so thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Transportation Committee. As you know, I am Bruce White. I represent part of the city of Waterville. I am pleased to sponsor LD 645 and resolve to create an electronic titling work group. 24 states have some variety of electronic lien and title program, and this number is likely to increase due to the push towards digital and remote access we have seen throughout the pandemic. An electronic lien and title system would allow for an electronic exchange of the title information between the holder and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. The American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators suggests a number of benefits that can result from the adoption of e-titling, including a reduction in errors, faster delivery, reduced paper mailing and printing costs, and improved data collection and forms. In addition, an electronic titling program has the advantage of reducing some of the burden on dealers and lenders and can speed up the process of title transfers. Studying this matter now will provide us with the framework needed to make the important investment in modernization of our motor vehicle titling system in the future. I am happy to take any questions that you may have, but there may be other supporters who follow me who are better able to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative White, for that testimony. Are there questions from the committee of Representative White? Seeing none, thank you. We'll now have a co-sponsor, Representative Bradstreet.
He didn't come.
Didn't come.
Nope.
All right, then we'll go to another proponent, Secretary of State Bellows. Good afternoon again, Secretary of State.
Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, members of the committee. I'm still Shanna Bellows, Secretary of State, and I am excited to testify on behalf of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles in support of LD 645, a resolve to create an electronic titling work group. We favor the formation of this work group for purposes of exploring the development and implementation of an electronic titling system for our state. We believe it's long overdue. The electronic titling system would have numerous benefits for consumers, the financial sector, and licensed dealers. Among those, the Bureau believes that electronic titling will enhance the ability of the BMV to process requests for new title documents quickly and efficiently. And we believe this will result in the timely capture of vehicle ownership in our system. Streamline the process of applying and releasing liens without the need for excessive paperwork. Ease the pressure for consumers to locate and produce a physical title document when transferring ownership of a vehicle within the state. Allow dealers to quickly verify the current ownership information on vehicles which they're taking in trade. Reduce the transaction delays resulting from lost title documents. Diminish the costs associated with filing duplicate title requests. Alleviate the burden of storing and managing paper motor vehicle titles for financial institutions who can secure their interests using an electronic lien. Decrease the time it takes for a lien to be released, and this will allow dealers to quickly resell their incoming inventory. Prevent fraud related to altered title documents, making it more difficult for illegitimate or stolen vehicles to obtain authentic title documents. And facilitate the documentation of the destruction of motor vehicles by licensed recyclers without the burden of excess paperwork. We respectfully request that under Section 1, line 14, H be removed. This language states a representative of a national organization that develops standards and guidance for electronic titling systems should be part of that work group. Wonderful news to share. Now that Kathy Curtis has returned to the BMV as my Deputy Secretary of State for Bureau of Motor Vehicles, she would bring that national titling expertise to the group, as she recently led a working group with representatives of 10 state motor vehicle agencies that drafted a framework for a national e-titling solution. This resolve is one example of how we can leverage technology to move our state forward to better serve the public and our business community. We are committed to technology modernization, and we appreciate the sponsors' recognition of how important this is for the future of our state and its citizens. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions, and was I mute that whole time?
No, you just
Okay.
muted the last piece.
Thank you.
Repeat that, please. No, I'm just kidding. You're all set. Secretary, this talks about having this work, or the group dissolved, work completed by the 132nd legislature. What do you think your time frame would be to actually be able to get the group completed and actually start the implementation of a titling program?
I would like to respond at the work session with a more precise schedule. I know that Kathy Curtis is a national expert. I know that we want to do this in collaboration with the national standards rather than get out and ahead of the rest of the country. I think we're doing it at the same time. But let me get back to you about whether the 132nd is the right legislature, whether we could expedite that process.
Because you had spoken to me and I think others about, you think the situation is probably getting pretty dire right now because of the antiquity of the program. And so something will have to be done well before that, I suspect. Is that true?
We have some significant backlogs currently. I know it's a huge stress on the business community. We met with the Maine Auto Dealers Association last week to talk about the issues that really began at the beginning of the pandemic when we were shut down for a couple of months. And so I do think there are aspects of modernization that we might be able to initiate now to expedite some aspects of our processing even before we get to a full e-title solution, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Secretary, I think this is a good idea. I think we've got to move that direction. My only heartburn is security and title transfers and everything with hackers today. I'm just nervous that you're going to have all this electronic stuff out there and people are going to wake up one day and they don't own their vehicle. So that's something, I mean, that'll be worked out during the working group, but I just wanted to mention that kind of right up front, that we've got to just make sure that all of us on the screen today don't wake up someday and we don't own our vehicles that we thought we owned.
And the sponsor or the committee might consider adding a bullet point about having the work group examine security measures, because this is something we take very seriously. The Secretary of State houses more personal identifying information than most agencies, and our license systems, our registration systems, our voter registration systems. So we take security very seriously. We have an excellent information services department and a director of cybersecurity. But it's important and we need to think about it every time we modernize, because it's never a question of if you're going to be attacked, but when and to what consequence.
Thank you for that. You may want to consider adding, I want to make sure this committee in the future is updated as you progress. You may want to add someone from the committee to be on the working group, just to have that connection. Just a thought.
That's a great idea.
Further questions from the committee? And on just a note on the previous bill that you testified on, would you mind working with the sponsor and with the Maine State Police, Lieutenant Scott, on that? Because I think maybe you can help us come up with something.
We'd be delighted to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next, in speaking in support is Tim Doyle, Maine Motor Transport. Good afternoon, Mr. Doyle.
Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Tim Doyle, and I'm the Vice President of Maine Motor Transport Association. The association is comprised of almost 1,600 member companies whose employees comprise a large portion of the 33,000 people who make their living in the trucking industry in Maine. We're here today to testify in favor of LD 645. MMTA strongly supports the creation of a work group to study electronic titling. The concept of electronic titling in Maine has been discussed for years now. And the current pandemic has served to only highlight the many reasons that its time is long overdue. The ability for dealerships and registration agents to generate a single title document for transmission via an electronic system will create efficiency, add to accuracy in the titling process. It'll reduce delays, and it'll eliminate possible errors caused by repetitive typing. MMTA, through our subsidiary, MMTA Services, is a trailer registration agent for Maine BMV. We currently submit thousands of title applications by mail to Maine BMV by first typing the applications on a typewriter. We had a new employee just a few weeks ago, and I had to actually explain what a typewriter was. So we often then, we're then reliant on the U.S. Postal Service to deliver the mail and payment to the BMV employees who must receive, open, and process the application and fees. The entire process now takes 12 to 14 weeks unless a rush title is requested and paid for, before the ultimate title reaches the registered owner or lien holder. The delays, as you can imagine, have increased dramatically because of issues related to the pandemic. Electronic titling would speed the process, create efficiencies, and serve Maine businesses and citizens well, which is why we urge you to pass this resolve. Should the committee or the Secretary of State find it beneficial, MMTA would be more than happy to serve on the working group. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee might have.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle, for that. We appreciate it. Are there questions from the committee of Mr. Doyle? Seeing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, speaking in support is Robert Caverly of the Maine Credit Union League. Good afternoon, Bob. Nice to have you back.
Yeah, nice to be here. Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Robert Caverly, and I serve as the Vice President of Governmental Affairs for the Maine Credit Union League. The League is the trade association for Maine's 54 credit unions and over 725,000 members that they have statewide. Today, I have submitted testimony on behalf of the League in support of LD 645. And to help save the committee some time, I'm not going to read my testimony because I did submit it, but I did want to highlight just a couple things. And when you have the Secretary of State and good people like Tim Doyle going ahead of you and they take all your talking points, why bother repeat them, right? So just wanted to highlight for the committee that, you know, obviously electronic titling has been considered by the committee and the BMV for quite some time. What this bill aims to do is to bring the interested parties together to chart a course forward to bring electronic titling to Maine over a period of time and responsibly. Studying this matter now will provide the framework needed to make the right investments in modernizing our motor vehicle titling system. And electronic titling has the potential, as previous speakers have said, to reduce costs to the state and for consumers and lenders, and to improve efficiencies at the BMV. The League would really like to thank Representative Bruce White for bringing this proposal forward, and we urge the committee to support it when we get to that point.
Thank you very much, Bob. We appreciate it. And again, nice seeing you again, for sure. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And last on the proponent side is Tom Brown, Maine Auto Dealers Association. Good afternoon, Mr. Brown.
He's not with us.
He's not with us, okay?
No.
Well, that closes out the public hearing since there are no more registered people to speak, neither for nor against or in opposition. So we'll now close the hearing on LD 645. We'll now open the public hearing on LD 662, an act to provide chiefs of police the direction to allow the use of light bars on emergency vehicles, presented by Representative Wadsworth of Hiram. Good afternoon, Representative Wadsworth. Welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Nathan Wadsworth, and I represent the towns of District 70, which are Hiram, Porter, Brownfield, Freiburg, and Lovell. And I'm bringing forward LD 662, as Senator Diamond just mentioned. This bill is a request of the Saco Valley Fire Association in North Freiburg, which is a volunteer fire department that services the towns of Freiburg and Stowe in Maine, in the town of Chatham on the New Hampshire side of the border. For the committee's reference, Chatham, New Hampshire is cut off from the Conway region by the White Mountains and the rest of New Hampshire. And it's really more of part of the Freiburg, Maine community, and even their students attend Freiburg Academy. What the members of the Saco Valley Fire Association are looking for is more flexibility with the size of the light bars on their vehicles when being toned out in responding to an emergency scene. As you can imagine, responding to an emergency scene in the hilly, winding roads of Western Maine, a large light bar on the vehicle is a lot safer than the small windshield lights that the volunteers have to use on our side of the border. Many of the firefighters of this department live in Chatham, New Hampshire, and have the light bars on the top of their pickups, and they use those when they're responding to an emergency scene in Chatham, but they can't use them, say on Route 5 or something out here in our neck of the woods. And I think that's a detriment to their safety. New Hampshire law allows for full-time or volunteer firefighters employed by municipal fire departments to be authorized by their department heads for flexibility of the lights on the vehicles. So we're looking for the same flexibility that New Hampshire allows for fire chiefs to give to their firefighters. And when I was coming back from dinner in New Hampshire the other night, I drove past the local Conway Fire Department where they're all having a meeting at their fire barn, and it counted eight pickups with in the parking lot, and every truck had a light bar on top of that vehicle. I could imagine how much safer a vehicle with a flashing red and white light bar that's a lot more visible, being first to an emergency scene, would make the scene. I hope you do too well. I hope you all do as well. Thank you for consideration. And I do have a couple members of the department that have signed up to testify. I hope they're here in support and can explain this a little more to the committee.
Thank you, Representative Wadsworth. Nice to have you with us. We appreciate your testimony. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Proponents, Jacob Drew. Is Jacob with us?
It's part of that Saco Valley group. They need to unmute.
Need to unmute for Jacob.
There we go.
Yes, I am here. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and members of the Joint Standing Committee of Transportation. I'm in support of LD 662 because of the fact that there's been a few incidences on my department alone, and I'm sure other departments out there, that scene safety is a big iffy for us on scene because of the fact that our POVs are not lit properly and effectively because we, by state standards, are only allowed 1 4-inch red light in our front window. And small rural departments like us here at Saco Valley and Level Fire do not always have the option of manpower to bring another apparatus out, so we end up using our POVs on scenes and as well as responding. An average house will burn in under 3 to 4 minutes fully involved, life-threatening in under 2. So at certain intersections and stuff, we can't effectively get to where we're going with haste because the average, for example, the average stoplight, you spend the minimum of a 4-way intersection stoplight is 4 to 6 minutes. So POV lighting, it would help us out and audible to safely and effectively get to where we are going efficiently.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions from the committee? Mr. Drew. Seeing none, thank you. And the next person to speak as a proponent, Ms. Foster, did I get that name right?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Danielle Foster, and I live in Lovell. here in Maine, and I'm here today to support LD 662, and this is my reason why. I'm a volunteer firefighter EMT for my community. My town does not have its own ambulance service, so we rely solely on mutual aid ambulance companies. This can take anywhere from 20-25 minutes depending on my location. In the National Library of Medicine, there's a case study that was performed in 2001 by linguist Jay Ho. It was titled "Time Saved with Emergency Use of Warning Lights and Sirens While Responding to Requests for Emergency Medical Aid in Rural Environments." The average call distance was 8 miles, and this is a fair representation of my average run distance. Over the course of 21 months, it was documented that it took emergency vehicles over 12 minutes to arrive without lights and sirens and obeying all traffic laws. When the emergency vehicle drove the same route with lights and sirens and moving with due regard to the other motorists on the road, the time lessened to just over 8 minutes. This gave a 4-minute difference in the life of that caller. Now, will 4 minutes change the outcome of an 80-year-old female that has fallen out of a chair and is requesting a lift assist? No, but it will. That 4 minutes change the outcome of a 56-year-old man that has just experienced sudden cardiac arrest. In 4 minutes, it can be the difference between me arriving on scene and finding that there's enough viable brain tissue that I can successfully resuscitate someone. In my job, as you know, time is tissue. 1 minute without oxygen, brain tissue begins to die. At 5 minutes, death is imminent unless we intervene. 10 minutes, lasting brain damage is happening. And at 15 minutes, resuscitation is not possible. It takes me less than 30 seconds to get from a 911 tone when it comes on my pager to be in my car and en route to the scene. 12-minute response time is too long. Most every scene we arrive on is not afforded a luxury of 4 walls or even a driveway. Most of our scenes are on curvy 2-lane roads, many times after dark. When I pull to the shoulder of the road and exit my vehicle, I have to rely solely on a 4-inch red light in the front of my vehicle and my 4-way flashers behind me. This is what I use to warn oncoming motorists that there's a rescue mission taking place. Unfortunately, my 4-ways do not discern the difference between a car pulled off on the side of the road using their cell phone and an emergency medical scene. It doesn't tell them to slow down and move over and give me space so that I can get back to my car for a second airway bag because I found another patient. Until my apparatus arrives with their big lights and their sirens, my scene is not safe until they can give me cover. Not safe for me, and it's not safe for my patients. I will always advocate for my patients' health and safety. As medical personnel, we want to give them their best possible chance for survival, even in rural areas. This means for us to be afforded the ability to get there in time, make a difference, and create a safe scene for both of us. We volunteer for our community in hopes of saving lives, but because of elongated response times and lack of a proper emergency warning lights for our scene being allowed, we are failing people in our community, and we're looking to you to help us fix this. I appreciate being heard, and I thank you for listening, and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Foster, for that helpful testimony. Are there questions from the committee? I'll just say that I'm sure that Representative Wadsworth will be at our work session, so feel free to communicate with him if you have things you'd like to have brought up. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the end of our proponents. And speaking in opposition, Rebecca Graham, Municipal Association. Ms. Graham, welcome.
Thank you, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, and distinguished members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Rebecca Graham, and I am testifying in opposition of LD at the direction of Maine Municipal Association's 70-member Legislative Policy Committee. I've heard what the proponents believe that this bill will do. However, that is not the way that it is drafted. The way that it is drafted is how our municipal officials responded. They're trying to understand why the inclusion of a blue light on a fire or ambulance or other non-police emergency vehicle as drafted would be necessary, all emergency vehicles, including police vehicles, encounter individuals who simply do not yield their operation, regardless of the number of lights or sirens on that response vehicles. And officials don't believe that adding those extra lights and sirens, particularly blue in color, is going to help this particular situation. They don't have an opinion upon the size of that. However, they are really conscious of the burden this is going to place on municipal police chiefs. And law enforcement is already carrying out a number of duties that are well beyond the scope of their historic duty, from philanthropy managers to community health liaisons and cultural advisors. So as drafted, rather than allowing municipal officials to weigh in, it is actually putting that police chief in between other municipal departments or private entities to determine whether or not those lights are necessary. And if a police chief doesn't agree that the lights are necessary, it could create animosity in between those departments that are wholly independent or interdependent upon each other, rather. This is not an authority that many police chiefs desire, and it's better placed with municipal leaders who also must weigh municipal liability and the budget impact against that necessity. In communities with no police department, such authority would be passed to a state or county official who have no connection to the needs of that community and could authorize an expenditure from a municipal budget outside the normal budget oversight process. So if the committee does move forward with the proposed legislation, officials would ask that you amend the authority to make this decision to be the responsibility of municipal officers elected or appointed by that community in consultation with local law enforcement at a minimum. However, we would prefer that you simply leave existing law in place and vote not to pass on 662. If you'd like to expand the size on personal vehicles, we do believe that that also requires a community weigh-in conversation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Graham, for that. Are there questions of Ms. Graham from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Last to speak, it's neither for nor against, is Lieutenant Bruce Scott, the Maine State Police. Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon again, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Transportation. My name is Lieutenant Bruce Scott, and I'm the commanding officer of the State Police Traffic Safety Unit. I'm here today to testify on behalf of the Department of Public Safety and the Maine State Police, neither for nor against LD 662. I'll go out on the record, start by saying that my testimony is drafted based on the language of the bill and not on what you heard for the proponents of the bill's recommendation and guidance. This bill would grant the authority for the chief of a local enforcement agency to authorize ambulances, emergency medical service vehicles, fire department vehicles, hazardous response vehicles to be equipped with and display blue lights. We believe that the public has been conditioned to blue lights representing law enforcement, and there is a danger in being misidentified as a police vehicle. People see vehicles with blue lights and approach them seeking help, or in rare instances, looking for an argument. The person in the vehicle with blue lights should be appropriately trained to respond as a police officer would, meaning they really should be a trained police officer if they're running blue lights. The blue lights often create a higher level of anxiety in motorists and may cause them to overreact when seeing them. Vehicles with blue lights on are often being operated at a higher rate of speed than vehicles with red lights. Over time, the motoring public may no longer be able to tell the difference between a police cruiser and these other types of vehicles that are now authorized to have blue lights. They may become somewhat desensitized and it may confuse them. I also fear that motorists may start to refuse to stop for police officers, arguing that they thought it was a different type of emergency vehicle that doesn't require them to stop. As we all know, it is only the police officer that has the authority to pull over a vehicle. But how would our motorists know the difference if we all use the same color lights? These other vehicles with blue lights may create fear that a non-law enforcement officer might try to stop motorists without the authority to do so. And it seems the harm here could exceed the benefit. We do recognize that there are studies that indicate blue lights are more effective at night under normal conditions, and that the red lights are better during the day, and therefore a combination of both may be beneficial. But there are also studies out there that indicate too much lighting, too many colors, and different flash patterns are often distracting and confusing. The National Traffic Incident Model that was approved by Congress indicates that conspicuity markings along with ample lighting for traffic may be the best approach for safety. With that being said, current law already allows for these emergency vehicles to display one blue light to the rear, but this bill would allow any number of blue lights anywhere on the vehicle if approved by the local chief. I believe that one blue light to the rear promotes safety without creating an adverse condition that could be caused by this bill. For these reasons, we're neither for nor against LD 662. And on behalf of the Department of Public Safety and Maine State Police, I do thank you for your time. I try to answer questions for you, but I would like to point out that the testimony from the proponents talked about actually maybe changing the classification. They're talking about speeding and driving faster to scenes with a personally owned vehicle. These are not emergency vehicles. They don't have the authority to violate any of the statutes in Title 29A. I would have some concerns if they were trying to move in that direction, but the bill itself and the way it was written would authorize them to have blue lights on their personally owned vehicles, and it would allow them to have just blue lights on their POVs if that's what they decided to do. So I think there's some confusion in how the bill's drafted as opposed to what they're hoping to gain from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. So would you also have concerns about the bar as opposed to the dashboard light? Do you have any concerns about that?
I would agree with Rebecca Graham on that one, that requires some community involvement in a discussion. The current statute does allow them to have the 4-inch light on the dash as discussed. It also allows them to have 2 lights to the front of their vehicle above the bumper and below the hood. So there is ample lighting that's allowed right now for a vehicle using it as a courtesy light, so to speak, where they're not authorized to speed and to pass vehicles and to go in the wrong directions and just go through stop signs and red lights. So there's minimal lighting allowed for volunteer firefighters right now in their POVs. And I think adding to that would require a different conversation. And I would be more than happy to have that if that's the goal here and push that up through my administration for a policy decision.
Thank you, sir. Questions from the committee, Representative Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Lieutenant Scott, that was kind of my question. I agree 100% on not the blue lights. I think that would really confuse the public. But my thought was maybe changing or tweaking the current law that would allow the bar on these vehicles, the red and white or whatever it might be, because of, and it may be more of an area thing, and I don't know how we'd come to that situation, but you've got some areas that you need a lot more light, with vehicles pulled over versus the small 4-inch one on the dash and maybe some other small flashing lights. Would you have any problem if it was just the bar, the red lights, like more of a fire engine would have, or a rescue or something like that, just to give them a little bit more light? Especially in these smaller communities and stuff like that. I agree with you on the speeding and stuff they can't do anyway. So I was a little nervous when they were mentioning some of that, but I would understand in smaller communities, especially with having more light at the scene, for the first responders that get there prior to possibly a ambulance or a fire engine.
So Representative Perry, that's a fair question, and I appreciate you bringing that forward. That really would require a policy decision from our administration, just because that's not at all what this bill proposed. Right. And so when we discuss this, I discuss it at high levels, and I bring back to you policy decisions that are made by our agency, the Department of Public Safety, and our commissioner. I think I'd have to have them weigh in on it, but I can tell you my gut feeling is there may be concerns about the size of these light bars and the fact that they're not emergency vehicles, and at what point does it become distracting and too distracting and overbearing, and what rights are associated with the more lights that you have. So I think that is a bigger conversation that would cause concern, and I can certainly vet that and then get back maybe for the work session if that's what's being asked.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Martin. Danny Martin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Lieutenant, for your testimony. The question that I would have is, during the work session, if you could share with us as to whether either in Title 29A or 30A, the verbiage Chief of Local Law Enforcement Agency is defined. And I'm just asking this because in a lot of unorganized territories, county governments sponsor or provide fire protection for the unorganized territory. Now, I'm assuming that Chief of Local Law Enforcement Agency would also include the sheriff, like the county sheriff. But I wonder if you could have that information for us in work session. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Other questions from the committee? Representative O'Connell.
Been doing line work for 34 years and I can't count how many structure fires and carpole accidents that I need to get to so the rescue personnel can do what they need to do to save the people. And I also can't count how many times with all the lights that I've got on that bucket truck that I've got on and people don't pull over. So I can certainly understand the concern that those rescue people have to want to get to where they need to get to in an expedient manner.
Thank you, Representative O'Connell. Are there further questions of Lieutenant Scott? Seeing none. Thank you very much, sir. That concludes the registered testifiers for LD 662. So we'll now close the public hearing on LD 662. Pardon me a minute. We're going to go into a work session in a minute or two, and I need to go grab my budget papers, so I'll be right with you.
That size?
Yeah.
Okay.
Darlene, I've got to grab mine, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
I got to get off this because I don't know how to use it.
Hey, Darlene, while we're on pause, I noticed that as opposed to the public hearing notice and the order of legislation that we just discussed, the panelist list that you gave us, the list of testimonies, is not in the same order. And I was just noticing that our Senate chair just took that list and, you know, just maybe if you could.
He does that to me all the time.
Well, I know that's my point. Well, all I'm suggesting is that you print it in the same order as how it's publicized, so the folks will know when their bill will be heard.
Okay, let's see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm sure our Senate chair would agree.
I'm sorry,
He missed the whole thing.
Just hold on.
I'll send you a text, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank
He
you.
who screams loudest gets moved to a different order.
Okay, we're now going to go into a work session on LD 161. As you all know, this is a biennial budget. Departments that we generally deal with, but these are the general fund side of the budget. So Suzanne, our trustee analyst from the fiscal side, will take us through. We'll do it the same way we did, if you remember before, when we were doing the supplemental. We'll go through each initiative and ask questions. You have any? And then at the end of each initiative, we'll move in or out. The motion will be move in, and then we'll either vote it in or out. Knowing that in means accepting, out means no. And as we finish this, if there are questions, do not feel pressured that we have to pass this today. If you still have questions about anything, please state those. We can always table this and get further information if you need it. If everybody is okay with it, then we'll have a motion to ought to pass. But that's where we'll begin. Suzanne, welcome.
Hello.
How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm good. Suzanne Bornick from Fiscal and Program Review.
Yes.
So I wasn't going to share the document today. If you want me to, I can.
No, I don't think.
But okay, I didn't think you wanted to because it was easier for you to see the screen without it last time.
I can't see anything when you do that.
So I'm on the document that I sent this morning, and I also sent the same one last week. I just resent it in case somebody couldn't find the email since you're inundated with so many emails. So that's the document I'm going through.
Before you go any further, I just wanted to check with the committee to make sure everybody has theirs. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess.
Okay.
Yep, we're all set.
Good. Okay, so I'm starting on page 1. I'm on public safety. At the top of the page is the baseline budget. And so this is how the budget starts. So if you look at the general fund, first of all, there's some history for the last couple years. So legislative count, this is a total number of positions that we're starting with in the baseline. And this is all positions whether they're funded currently or they're vacant. It's just everybody. Next is personal services. That's salary, benefits, life insurance, pension. And this gets increased each year based on increases in health insurance, salary increases, pension increases, so on. Next is all other. This is everything. There is a lot of stuff in this one category, from professional services to computer technology costs to postage, supplies, anything that's not personal services basically goes into that line. And as you can see, in 2021, it was almost 11.1 million, and it stayed the same in 22 and 23. That usually is flat funded in the baseline budget, except it might be adjusted for a one-time, because a one-time does not get into the baseline budget. It's just for that, whatever that year is, it goes in or out, and then the baseline budget for the following year does not include it. The next line, which you won't see often until we get to the highway fund and you'll see it in DOT, is capital expenditures. And there was an amount in 2019-20. How capital expenditures works, it is not included in the baseline. If you have capital, you have to build it into the budget by a separate initiative. So even if there was 107,900 in 2021, you would still see zero in 22-23. That's just how the budget process works. Usually works fine that way, except when you get to DOT. But so next we have federal expenditures and other special revenue funds. Obviously, the baseline works the same way. I'm just going to show you a couple things about the document before we get into the initiatives. So after the baseline, you have various initiatives that we'll go through in a minute to either increase or reduce the baseline budget. So if you want to change the baseline budget, you don't simply take a pen and cross it out and change the number. You create an initiative that either increases the cost or decreases the cost. So if you look at page 4, I just wanted to show you this. Down at the bottom, we have a program summary, and looking at the general fund. So this will give you the total baseline budget plus all the initiatives which are on the previous 3 or 4 pages. So that's the total for those years for that particular program.
Regarding the first initiative,
yep.
Do we have the commissioner with us?
We do.
Is he on, Darlene?
I can pull the commissioners in if that's what you want.
I do. I need to ask him a question.
Oh, where is he?
I can see him.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner, you with us?
Yep.
Yes, sir, I am. Good afternoon, Senator Diamond, Representative Martin, members of the committee. Here I am, sir.
Good. I have a question on the legislative count, position count. And the number we have is 316 and a half. And I'm curious, how many of those are vacant?
So we are having a conversation right now of, because the same questions come through criminal justice, public safety. The last number I saw, and we don't have this firmed up yet, is 51 positions across DPS are currently vacant.
Okay. Are they trained law enforcement types, or are they administrative types, clerk types? What are they?
It's a combination. That's a DPS wide number. So that is a cross section of office associate 2s, multiple different bureaus. Obviously, as you may remember, about 74% of our overall count do fall under the Maine State Police umbrella, whether that's sworn or non-sworn. So we're going to have a higher level of vacancies into that one particular bureau, but they are spread across everybody.
Okay. And you plan on filling those between now and Or do you plan on filling those? And if you are, when would you plan on doing it?
Yes, sir. We are actively filling those now. Some of the delay there is because of COVID, when we locked down and we weren't hiring positions, specifically non-sworn. Some with a very experienced committee here. We understand that there are only 2 police academies a year, as an example. So there's an ebb and flow of hiring within the Maine State Police because we can only get them into academy in certain times. So that's going to cause a bit of a backlog there as well. So there's different reasons for different positions in different bureaus.
Okay. Thank you. Questions from the committee? Other questions of the commissioner on anything under the first initiative? Seeing none? We all set with Chairman Martin?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Suzanne, are you going to be going through the initiatives?
Yeah, I'm gonna read them like I did
Yeah,
with the last budget.
Read them out.
Yep.
I'll then make a motion to move in.
Okay,
And then entertain any questions that committee members may have.
okay.
Okay?
So did you want to vote on that first one or
Yes,
not?
yes, we do. So the motion would be, go ahead, Representative Martin.
Move in.
Motion is in.
And that includes for both fiscal years.
That includes everything under that initiative.
23, correct.
Exactly. Well, yeah, 20, exactly.
Yeah.
It's one time, so there's only something in 22.
Yeah, stops over 22. All those in favor of in? Show me your hands, please, just so I can, I mean, on the board, because some of you are not up.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, barring any questions, when we make the motion to move in, can we assume that we're all in supportive, short of any questions or up? Take a vote, show of hands.
Yes, because we're going to vote on the whole thing at the end.
Right.
So this is a guide. So unless committee members, anybody's uncomfortable with that, we'll just assume unless you negate that with a question or hold it up. So yes, let's do it. It's a good idea. Thank you. Motion was in.
Yeah, Senator Diamond, real quick.
Yes.
What we could probably do, if there's a problem with one, we can just set that one aside and deal with that afterwards.
And we can come backwards. We still
Not that there will be, but.
No. Okay, very good. Let's thank you very much for that. We got those little trivias out of the way. Appreciate everybody. Now, Suzanne, we're up to you.
Okay, so I'm on the next initiative, which is in the bottom of page 1, provides funding for the approved reclass of 2 planning and research associate 2 positions to 2 criminal intelligence analyst positions effective July 26, 2019 and August 7, 2019 respectively, and provides funding for related all other costs. And then on the top of the next page, this is reference number 2314 and 2316, just because there are 2 funding sources. So for the general fund, it's 14,511 and 22, and then $5,105 and 23. Federal expenditures funds is 22,115 and 22, and 8,054 and 23.
Move in, Mr. Chair.
In. No questions? Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, and next we have reference 2317 provides funding to align the current level of reimbursement for overtime pay and associated all other costs provided by the state police. This is an other special revenue funds allocation of $691,895 in both years.
Move in.
Thank you. Questions on this one? Seeing none, okay.
Okay. Provide one-time funding for general operational costs to align program costs with available resources. Other special revenue funds of $51,252 in each year.
And that was for reference item 2318.
2318, yes, sorry.
Move in.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner?
Yes, sir.
Where are we going to see any supporting funds for the computer crime unit? Is it not so far? Is that right? That's my basic question.
That is correct, sir. That is correct. It's not, there's not initiatives that are listed in this budget presentation. under the general fund.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Suzanne, motion is in.
Okay. Next, on the bottom of page 2, we have reduces funding in the general fund to recognize savings in technology. That's reference 2319. And on the second page, it's a reduction of 407,073 in 22 and 400,511 in 23.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All set?
Yep. I didn't hear if you made a motion or not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed it. Next is reference 2321, reduces debt retirement funding one time to meet general fund cost reduction efforts. And this is a reduction of 786,472 in 22 and 649,728 in 23.
Move in.
Thank you. Questions? All right.
Reference 2323 reduces funding for office supplies cost. This is a reduction of 29,000 in each year.
Move in.
Questions? Thank you.
And then 2325 reference reduces funding for cellular phone service costs, a reduction of 16,250 in each year.
Move in.
Thank you.
And then next we have 2327 reference reduces funding for fleet maintenance costs, a reduction of 81,350 in each year.
Move in. If I may, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, regarding your police vehicles and other vehicles, there are some departments in state government, and I know you've been asked this many, many times, that lease their vehicles. For example, IFMW leases their vehicles. Why do we purchase our vehicles?
It's a great question, sir, and I appreciate that. For a number of years now, the Maine State Police actually operate under a cop financing program. And that's simply because they put about 10 million miles on per year. Million with an M, right? That's a lot of miles. And it doesn't naturally fit with a leasing program for any company that is out there. We do work with our fleet maintenance professionals, the folks that do this every day, and they look at it as about 125,000 mile changeover, time to get a new cruiser in the mix as we move forward. And it's just not a feasible lease style program. As an example, in law enforcement, you may see a leasing program for motorcycles that you won't see for cruisers, right? Especially in Maine and high miles and all those different kind of things.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you. Motion is in. Any questions? Seeing none, okay.
And then the next initiative is reference 2329, reduces funding one time and gas expenses to meet general fund cost reduction efforts. And this is a reduction of 68,350 in both years.
Thank you. Move in.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner, knowing that the gas is going up almost daily, how are we able to do a reduction?
Yeah, it's a great question, sir. I think the very first thing we were able to do is look at our gas purchase contract. And there were early payoff benefits to that that weren't being utilized day in and day out. And so if you pay within 30 days, the faster you pay it off, the larger, essentially a refund. The low end of the refund was $2,500 a month and the high end was $6,000. And so that wasn't being properly utilized along the way. Nobody wants to go through these kind of budget concerns, but it does force you to go in line by line, which I think is an incredibly important process. And we did find that that was one of the things working with our budget office and our team that we could do better, as well as some of the enhancements, the improvements that the garage folks made, which was an earlier item of about 81,000. They thought they could save some money based on the type of oil they were putting in the vehicle. And if you're saving 1 penny per mile, and you're doing 10 million miles, there's definitely an impact on that on the gas side as well. So that's where we came up with those initial savings. no doubt, right, if the gas continues to go up, we do have a contract for how much we're going to pay, but we'll keep an eye on that moving forward.
Thank you, Commissioner. Motion is in. Any other questions? Seeing none, okay.
Okay, now moving on to page 5, that's the end of the state police. So this is traffic safety, commercial vehicle enforcement. You've got the baseline budget, which is just federal expenditures, funds for the general fund piece. And the one and only initiative is reference 2371, provides funding for the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration Consolidated Federal Grant Award. And that is $645,769 federal expenditures fund in both years.
Thank you, Suzanne. Move in.
Motion is in. Questions? This is a federal grant, Commissioner?
Yes, sir. Largely, the commercial vehicle unit is funded largely through that federal grant. This is providing the authority for us to spend that grant funding. So nothing out of the general fund.
Yeah, makes sense. Sorry. Yeah, that's good. Got it. Okay.
All right, now moving on to page 6, or page, 6. So this is the turnpike enforcement. You've got the other special revenue funds, baseline budget, and there are no initiatives. So unless people have questions, we don't need to take a vote on this. It's just baseline.
Any questions here, committee members? Okay, thanks.
Just so new people know, the Turnpike Authority reimbursed the state police for all costs that they incur to patrol the turnpike. So this is the reimbursement of those particular costs, admin, salary, everything.
This is the famous Troop G, yes? Correct?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to page 8. We're on the Secretary of State. Administration, motor vehicles, and again, we've got the baseline budget, federal funds, and other special revenue funds, and there are no new initiatives on this either.
Questions? Okay.
All right, page 9, municipal excise tax reimbursement fund. Again, you've got the other special revenue funds, baseline budget, and no new initiatives.
Also, for new members, we'll be visiting all of these same people on the highway side. So these helpful folks will be back in case anything else comes up. Okay, Suzanne.
Okay, and then the last piece I have for you is page 11. It's part N, and this authorizes DAFs and the Department of Public Safety to enter into financial arrangements in fiscal year 21-22 and 22-23 for the acquisition of motor vehicles for state police. And this is, I'd kind of say, I hate to put it this way, but it's kind of boilerplate language. You get this in every biennial budget, and it just gives the authority to enter into those arrangements. And this particular language is what we refer to as unallocated, meaning it doesn't get into the statutes. So it's only in effect for those 2 years of the biennial budget. And that's why you have it repeating in every biennial budget. So you would have seen the same one 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's a term that a lot of folks don't know about, or they tend to forget, and that's the unallocated piece.
Yeah.
When you hear that, you know that it's not going into the law.
Right.
That's just there.
Yeah,
It runs up.
Yeah, no, you're right, Mr. Chair. You'll see that language with several other committees that have jurisdiction on respective departments. I'm not sure, Mr. Chair, if the proper motion would be move in, but I think, we concur with part N, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think a move in would be good. Thank you.
So moved.
Good. All right. That does it, I think. Yes?
We need a motion on the whole budget.
Yeah, he does. I was just making sure we hadn't left anything out. Now, committee members, anybody have a question? Nothing was set aside, but does not mean we can't go back and take a peek. If you want to highlight something, everybody okay with what we've done? Again, remember, this is the general fund side, so it's not our bread and butter, but.
I won't say it doesn't count.
Don't say that.
I did not say, you noticed I did not say that, Representative. Okay,
Unless there's more money coming in, then it counts.
Okay, any questions?
Chair, if I may, Mr. Chair, the procedure is we'll have our clerk take a roll on the motion ought to pass, I would assume.
That's
when
correct.
made. And then the committee sends their blessings to appropriations. Is that the correct procedure?
Right, which they may or may not look at, but that's up to them. We hope that they do. So no more questions. There is a motion in order.
Ought to pass.
Motion's made, ought to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, thank you very much. Discussion, further discussion on the motion ought to pass. Seeing none. Darlene?
Senator Diamond,
Yes.
Representative Danny Matton,
Yes.
Representative Perry,
Yes.
Representative Williams,
Yes.
Representative Dustin White is absent. Senator Chipman, absent. Senator Farren,
Yes.
Representative Perkins. I could see him nodding his head
He's
yes.
saying yes. I don't think it's coming through.
Nope, it's not. Representative Bryant,
Yes.
Representative Bruce White,
Yes.
Representative Tom Matton,
Yes.
Representative O'Connell,
Yes.
and Representative Seabra is absent. So I have 10 in favor of the motion and 3 absent.
Motion 10 in favor, 3 absent. The motion ought to pass. It does pass.
Dustin is here. I
Oh,
see
he
him on
is? Okay.
screen.
Oh, let's get-
Representative White? Dustin?
Hold on, I'm working on it.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
All right.
okay. Are you going with ought to pass?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's 11 with 2 absent.
11 in favor, 2 absent. The motion then does pass, ought to pass. So that pretty much does it for us, folks. We are coming back, same place, same time on Thursday. We have 5, I think it's 5 bills, all about inspections, vehicle inspections. So some of us have seen those before. So it's going to, Senator Farren.
Once or twice.
Yeah, once or twice. Senator Diamond, I just wanted, I know that since we started the meeting this afternoon, we've had 2 or 3 members come back on, and I just thought it might be worthwhile just reiterating the importance of members, especially on the divider, to answer those emails so that we can get those bills reported out.
Thank you for bringing that back up, and I appreciate that. Yes, please, those who might have come in late, and those, as a reminder for those who are here, please, it's important that you sign off. The new rule is all divided reports have to have, every member has to sign and say, yes, that's how they voted. And until you do that, the bill cannot leave the committee. And we have 5 bills that are stacked up now because people did not respond and sign off on those. So we really encourage you. This is an important piece. It's not like a secondary thought. It's something that has to happen. So we need to have you do that, follow through with it. The minute you get the notice or very soon after you get it, please respond saying that's how you voted, if that's the case. Because again, we've got some bills we wanted to get out for the last legislative session, but we couldn't because we had 1 or 2 folks who didn't respond. So it's important. It's a big deal. It helps everybody. And when it doesn't happen, we have a lot of folks who have worked hard to get it where it is administratively and from the clerk's side. That it just stacks up. So please give us that assistance. We take that. We really much appreciate that.
And I forwarded it to the people that I need the votes for. So if you just respond to me on all 5 of them, one shot deal will be good.
Yeah, please do that as soon as we leave here, because we've got to get those bills out. And so we really appreciate that.
So we don't actually have to sign anything. Forgive me, Mr. Chair. You just have to respond to the email saying whether or not you voted. Okay.
Remember
Excellent, thank
in the past, you would just you'd sign off that that's how you voted because they'd bring around the sheet. But right
Right.
now, all you have to do is just respond back saying, yes, that's how I voted. That would do it.
Mr. Chair, I just checked my email and I did not have one from Darlene.
I know who you are.
We know the ones that we're after, right, Darlene?
Yes, we do.
So
Next
to
time
make
we
sure
put the
it's
whip out there. They'll send me to the Civic Center next time.
all right,
works.
anything else from anybody else? Mr. Chair Martin, anything from you further? Danny Martin?
He needs to
I'm
turn his
here.
mic on.
I'm muted. I was just saying, I was just complimenting our Senate Chair, how great he did today. We accomplished quite a bit. Thank you.
Did get a lot done. Thank you. We got some people who are going to be working behind the scenes before we get to a work session on these bills. Hopefully that'll make our work sessions go a little faster.
For those of you that may not know, I think this is our fifth Zoom with our Senate and a couple of lead members.
Danny and I have been Zooming today along with the leads. So it's been good.
That's what happens when you put 100 bills in. You have to go everywhere all the time.
No.
I don't know. This is all business for the Transportation Committee.
Trying to make your life easier, Representative Perry.
Okay, good.
But this was the
I need it
funnest-
easier.
This was the most enjoyable one for you guys, right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, my gosh. Without a doubt. All right, Darlene, anything from you?
Nope, that's it. Just make sure you guys answer that email that I sent you in the middle of the hearing today.
Send me an update if you would this afternoon, Darlene,
I will.
on that very effort. So
Okay.
that'd be good. All right. anything
Bill
else?
item.
We'll see you
All right.
all Thursday, public hearings.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. See you.